Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. Let's talk about learning languages. I'm John, and I'm here with Sarah to talk more about learning English and other languages. Today's episode is special because we'll dive deep into the best ways to learn languages, share personal stories, and give you some practical tips. How are you today, Sarah?
I'm great. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited about today's episode. Learning a new language is something many people want to do. And today we will help our listeners get started and keep going, even when it feels difficult. So, John, how did you first start learning English?
Well, I first started learning English in school, like many people. But honestly, I didn't really learn much until I started practicing outside of the classroom. I remember listening to English music and watching movies with subtitles. At first, it was really hard. I didn't understand much. But over time, I started to recognize words and phrases. It felt great when I could understand a whole sentence for the first time. What about you, Sarah? What was your experience?
That sounds familiar. I had a similar experience. I started learning English when I was young by watching cartoons. I would watch them with subtitles in my own language. And then later, I tried without subtitles. It was like a game guessing what the characters were saying based on the actions. And slowly, it made sense. Watching things I enjoyed really helped me stay motivated.
I love that. It's true. When you enjoy what you're learning, it doesn't feel like hard work. Watching movies, listening to songs, or even reading simple books in English can be fun ways to learn. Speaking of which, what's your favorite way to learn a language now?
I think I love using language apps. Apps like Duolingo or Memrise are really fun because they turn learning into a game. You earn points, complete levels, and you don't feel like you're just memorizing words. You're really learning by doing. Plus, they remind you to practice every day, which is super important.
Yes, daily practice is key, even if it's just 10 minutes a day. It makes a big difference. And what's great about apps is that they are always with you. You can practice on the bus while you're waiting for someone or even before bed. But I think it's also important to mix it up. Using different methods keeps it interesting.
Absolutely. You can use apps, but also watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, like this one, and read. One thing that helped me was keeping a notebook. I would write down new words and sentences I heard or read during the day, and then I'd review them later. It's a simple way to remember vocabulary.
That's a great idea, Sarah. Writing things down really helps. And speaking of writing, let's talk a bit about the challenges people face when learning English. Many learners struggle with speaking. They're afraid to make mistakes. What would you say to someone who feels shy about speaking?
Oh, I understand that completely. Making mistakes can feel scary, but it's actually the best way to learn. If you never speak, you won't get the practice you need to improve. It's okay to make mistakes, everyone does. And guess what? Most people won't even notice if you make a small mistake. They'll just be happy that you're trying to speak in a new language. What do you think, John?
I agree 100%. The most important thing is to just start speaking. You don't have to be perfect. In fact, mistakes are part of the learning process. I remember when I was learning French, I made a lot of funny mistakes, but the people I spoke to were always kind and helped me out. The more I practiced, the better I got. So, my advice is, don't wait until you feel ready to speak, just go for it.
Exactly. And if you're really nervous, you can start by speaking to yourself. It sounds silly, but it works. You can practice in front of a mirror or record yourself talking about your day. This helps you get comfortable with the sound of your own voice in English.
That's a great tip, and if you can, try to find a language partner, someone who is also learning or someone who speaks English fluently. You can have conversations, and it's a great way to practice real-life situations. What do you think, Sarah, is learning with others better?
Oh, yes. I think learning with a friend or a group is much more fun. You can help each other and motivate each other. Plus, you can practice speaking, which is something you can't do alone. Sometimes, when I was learning, I would meet with a friend once a week, and we would talk only in English for 30 minutes. It was challenging at first, but after a few weeks, I noticed a big improvement.
That's such a great way to learn, and I think it's also important to remind our listeners that learning a language takes time. It's not something you can do overnight. Be patient with yourself and don't give up. Even if you only learn a few new words each week, you're still making progress.
Exactly. Language learning is a journey. You're not racing anyone, so take your time and enjoy the process. One day, you'll look back and be surprised at how much you've learned. Do you think there are any specific habits that really help language learners?
Yes, definitely. I think consistency is the most important habit. Like we said earlier, practicing every day, even for a short time, is better than studying for hours once a week. Also, setting small, achievable goals can help. For example, today you can decide to learn 5 new words or practice asking questions in English. When you meet those goals, you'll feel more confident.
Yes. And don't forget to celebrate your progress. Even small achievements, like understanding a new word or having a short conversation, are big steps forward. Sometimes we're too hard on ourselves and forget to appreciate how much we've learned.
That's so true. Learning a language is not just about speaking perfectly, it's about communicating and understanding. So, give yourself credit for every little step. Speaking of steps, Sarah, let's talk a bit about learning other languages. Have you tried learning any other languages besides English?
Yes, I've learned some Spanish. I think learning more than one language is so beneficial. It not only helps you communicate with more people, but it also makes your brain stronger. You become better at problem solving and thinking creatively. What about you, John? Have you learned other languages?
I've dabbled in French and a little bit of Japanese. It's amazing how learning one language can help you learn others. You start to understand how languages work, grammar, sentence structure, and even how to remember words better. Plus, it's fun to compare different languages and see the similarities.
Exactly. And I think when you learn a new language, you also get to learn about a new culture. It opens up a whole new world of food, music, traditions. It's not just about the words, it's about connecting with people and understanding their way of life.
That's such a great point, Sarah. So, for all our listeners out there, if you're learning English or any language, just remember to enjoy the process. You're not just learning words, you're learning about a whole new world. Keep practicing, stay patient, and have fun with it.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are so many resources out there: apps, podcasts, YouTube channels, and even language exchange groups. So, find what works for you and keep going.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up for today. Thank you all for joining us on Let's Talk About Learning Languages. We hope this episode gave you some helpful tips and a little motivation to keep learning.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up for today. Thank you all for joining us on Let's Talk About Learning Languages. We hope this episode gave you some helpful tips and a little motivation to keep learning.
We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
See you, everyone.